Hello everyone. The best way to understand how a reducer function works is by implementing it ourselves. Today we are going to add our custom reducer function. I have prepared 7 different test cases to guide you in implementing this function. A great approach is to pause this video, try to implement the function based on these test cases, and then compare your solution with mine. Our version might not be an exact copy of the reduce function, but it will be very close. Imagine implementing something like this during an interview, it would definitely be a plus. So let's start with test cases, which are initially set to failed, as you can see. The first test case checks if we pass null or undefined. If we receive null or undefined instead of an array, we need to throw a type error with the message myReduceAllot on null or undefined. So let's add our full message here. So let's change null to undefined, and as you can see, we successfully passed the first test case. And it doesn't matter if we have null or undefined, we avoid both test cases with null and undefined. And let's add console clear function just to delete all previous results in our console. So the first test case is passed. Let's close it, and next, if it's not null or undefined, it should be an array. So our next if statement focuses on checking if this is an array. So if array is array returns false, we throw an error myReduceAllot on non-array. So let's change the message. It should be myReduceAllot on non-array. Let's change one mistake here. It should be just undefined. And as you can see, the second test case is passed as well as the first one. So using these test cases makes implementation easier than just trying to code without knowing exactly what you need to return. Okay, let's proceed. So let's close our second test case, and next, let's check our arguments. The reduce function receives 2 arguments, and the first one is a function. So our next test case checks if the callback function is function. We'll add another if statement to check if type of callback is not a function. If so, we throw a type error with a message that the callback is not a function. Now we see more green icons in the console. Let's just change the message that callback is not a function, and I think it will be enough. And as you can see, the first 3 test cases are passed. So let's close our try-h function. Now we need to check if we have an empty array and no initial value. In this case, we should show type error starting reduce of empty array with no initial value. Let's create a variable has initial value. The initial value is a second argument. To check if we have it, we look at arguments.length. If the length is more than 1, we have initial value. Now we need to check if we have an empty array and no initial value. In this case, we should show a type error starting reduce of empty array with no initial value. So let's just modify the message reduce of empty array with no initial value, and as you can see, our test case is already passed. By the way, we can't check initial value directly. It would be 0 or undefined, which the user might initially pass as the initial value. So we just check arguments.length. So let's close our test case because it's already done. And the rest of test cases focus on how we do our normal operation with initial value and array, with empty array and initial value, and with just an array. Now it's time to add our second argument. So let's add here as a second argument initial value, and we create a variable for the start position. If we have an initial value, we start from index 0, otherwise from index 1. So start index will be 0 if we have initial value and 1 if not. Next one is our emulator variable. It's the result from the previous all. This variable will equal the initial value if we have 1 or the first element of the array otherwise. And this variable will be the result of our function, so let's just return it. And as you can see, we already passed one of the test cases. So if we have empty array and initial value, we return the red result. Now let's create a for loop where I equals start index. We iterate through the array while I is less than this length and incrementing I with each iteration. As you can see, we start iterating from the second element if we don't have initial value, but our first element from the array is already saved in our variable emulator. Here we update the emulator with the result of the callback function, which receives the previous result of the emulator, the current item, its index, and the array. That's all. All our test cases are green now. I hope this video has helped you understand the reduce function better than before. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and see you next time. Bye.